click go live, if the Facebook browser opens, close it down. And then even though it might not say that you're live, you are. So what I typically find is that I'll sit around for like 15 seconds saying nothing, and it's you're already gone live.
All right. Hello.
Sorry, we're live. I'm sorry, do you want to start that again? Sorry, I didn't realize you'd gone live.
That's okay. We'll just keep talking. We're going live. Hello and welcome, everybody. Sorry about the little technical glitch earlier. This is Techie Space, and Helen is like a real hit and miss. But I am glad that we have got Amy Oldfield here tonight to continue the conversation that we started last week about women's health, well-being, and using cycle-based fitness as a revolutionary way to work with our hormones and our natural body to have a better life. So welcome, Amy.
Hello, everybody. Hey, Helen. Hi, everyone. We're going to get into a juicy conversation today. So get your pens and paper out so you can take some notes.
Yeah. And by way of introduction, Amy is a women-centric personal trainer, and she does work with women to optimize their strength and well-being and lifestyle through specific strength training, which we call cycle-based fitness. Not necessarily being on a bike, but we will talk more about, have a recap from last time about what cycle-based fitness is. So, Amy, let's start off with that. Just a little recap from last week, and for our viewers that are going to be watching live and those that are going to be playing back, what is cycle-based fitness?
Yeah, so we spoke a lot the other week about what it is and the benefits of training with your cycle. So if you haven't seen that video, then go back a couple of weeks and watch the conversation that me and Helen had then, because it was awesome. But cycle-based fitness is understanding for a woman the different phases of her cycle that she goes through throughout a month, and helping you to optimize your performance, and importantly, exercise in a way that helps you to manage your stress as you go through your monthly cycle. So there's 4 phases of the cycle. You have your menstrual phase, which is where you begin. That's like a day 1 of bleeding. You then move into your follicular phase, then into your ovulatory phase, and then into your luteal phase. So essentially, you've got 4 different bodies across the month. And what we can do when it comes to fitness and exercise is use our hormones at each point in your cycle to, like, their superpowers. So you can have more enjoyment from exercise, get better results, not get so fatigued, and actually feel more motivated about the type of exercise you're doing, because your fluctuating hormones will change the way that your body feels. It will change how you perform. So you can actually start to use your female body like it's a superwoman, rather than feeling like your body is letting you down. And typically the way that most women work out, and the way that I worked out for years, is to pretend that we are capable of working out in the same way that men do. So men have a very predictable 24-hour clock called our circadian rhythm. And women also have a circadian rhythm, but we have this second clock, this 28-day-ish infradian clock. And we need to take that into account if we really want to increase our wellness, feel better on a day-to-day basis, make more progress in the gym, like build more muscle, lose weight more easily, sleep better, and like all of these other things, rather than just treating our body as if it's the same day in, day out, like a man's. It really isn't.
Yeah. I hear you, and 100% hand on heart, I can agree with you. So I find some of the frustrations that happens with our clients, and also in, across the board in our industry, is the yo-yo dieting, the reducing calories and saying that I've been working so much harder, why can't I get the weight off? And people aren't sitting back and going and saying the simplicity of like, let's look at and educate on blood insulin levels, which helps with hormonal fluxes as well as fat metabolism. And also, when we're in the follicular phase, which is after menstruation, just before ovulation, there is more testosterone available in the body and in the blood, as well as estrogen. And that's the time that we can really push ourselves more to be able to work harder, go for those personal bests, each slightly different. So we're actually managing our energy levels and actually managing our performance levels as well. So would you like to add to that, Amy?
Yeah, and you talk about the follicular phase and how that is the time when we feel more energetic and we're stronger and we have the wonderful benefits of estrogen and testosterone on our side. And when it comes to cycle-based fitness or cycle syncing, whatever you want to call it, I think some women can feel like perhaps it's a bit woo-woo, or perhaps it means that whilst you're on your period that you need to completely rest, and then the rest of the month is when you can work out. But actually there's different things you can do in each of those phases that are going to really benefit you. And women can work out the whole of their cycle. Like, we're amazing creatures. We can work out all month long. It's just about managing that intensity. So as you say, like in the follicular phase, when we've got estrogen and testosterone on our side, our body is more geared up for heavier strength work. You're going to just naturally feel stronger. This is the time of the month where you've got great energy, you've got a lot of strength, you're probably hitting your PBs at this point. And maybe if you're not cycle tracking right now, you won't be aware of it, but it pretty much always happens at that time of the month. That's when you've really, you're firing on all cylinders. And then as you move into the second half of your cycle, the luteal phase, you can still strength train, but we just need to be aware that with the presence of progesterone dominating at that part of the cycle, you're not going to have the strength that you did the week before. You're not going to have quite as much in the tank. So we start to then flip our training to slightly lighter strength training work, slightly higher on the rep range. You can still push yourself. And then as we move into the end of the luteal phase, so that tricky week where a lot of women can feel really fatigued and PMSy, that's the time where you may want to pay attention to pulling back a little bit more and not trying to lift the same weight that you did 2 weeks ago when you had all of that wonderful estrogen and testosterone on your side, because now your body is in a very different hormonal environment. So we need to think about how we can support our body before we start to menstruate, and pulling back a bit more, really dropping that intensity, maybe doing a bit more yoga type exercise. And if you are strength training, then, you know, maybe it's more like you're pushing yourself at a 7 out of 10. Like it's not a 10 out of 10. It's not doing back-to-back HIIT classes. It's really taking care of yourself, because one phase, it rolls into the next. And this is what I really love about cycle syncing. It's bringing awareness to each of those phases and knowing that if you've optimized in one phase, then the next phase, you're going to feel so much better. So it's really understanding that we're not the same every week, and that isn't a bad thing. That's not a problem. We just need to learn how to use it to our advantage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love what you were saying, hitting about the luteal phase and changing some of the exercise activity around. And I know that we've spoken about this as trainers ourselves, that we would the exercise prescription that we would give our clients and the recommendations is higher repetitions and slightly lower weight to try and get to that exertion rate of being that 7 out of 10, which doesn't mean like we've got to push to that point where we've got to take on that so much, every fiber in our being to push through that load that we're doing. And the other thing is, in the luteal phase, after we ovulate, the body will go thinking like it's geared itself up to be hoping that the uterine lining, and it wants to be, pregnant. So the blood volume of the body is slightly more until we start to shed. And we also get temperature fluctuations. So I find in the classes that when women are trying to push themselves the same way, and then they get to the fatigue point 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes earlier, and there's this defeat of like, I can't do it. And then we have to remind them that what part of your phase are you at? And there's a reason why you're fatiguing. That fatigue point is happening a little bit earlier, because the progesterone in the body in the second half of the cycle, this is my little science geeky hat coming on now, is 1,400% higher than when it is in the estrogen phase or in that follicular phase. And so and progesterone is a calming hormone. And so if we think about it, when we're in the luteal phase and we're going towards the menstruation phase, women who come through and present with PMS, we have a little saying going around our women's circle group that PMS stands for please make space, as opposed to the premenstrual syndromes, that if we are making space for that, because progesterone, as I said, is that calming hormone, and we're pushing at higher intensity training, the body uses cortisol, it uses adrenaline to be able to get into those higher peaks, and it'll optimize that and start robbing progesterone from the body. And that second part of the luteal phase, if we don't take care of ourselves in that second part, as you said, Amy, that next cycle, we've robbed Peter to pay Paul, and do that and compound it time and time again. After a while, we get fatigued, adrenaline imbalances, hormonal irregularities, and a lot of these other different stages of burnout that we get to see through a woman's life cycle. So I am so glad we're talking about this tonight.
Yeah, God, you just hit the nail on the head there. Like progesterone, as you say, like that's our calming hormone. Women and men feel a bit more chilled at that point, not being amped up with like endless HIIT training classes and like massive long runs and training 6 times a week. And it's just really working against the body. And managing stress is so important for women to have healthy cycles, healthy ovulation, be able to build muscle, be able to lose weight. And so in the luteal phase, if you're doing all this like amped up, push harder training, as you say, we don't produce the progesterone, we start to produce too much cortisol instead. And so we end up in this state where we're totally imbalanced with our estrogen and our progesterone. So we've got low progesterone because the body is producing cortisol instead of progesterone. And then as a result, our estrogen is relatively higher. So we've got this massive imbalance between estrogen and progesterone, which is largely accountable for the PMS and for the difficult periods as well. Yeah. So as we say, kind of one phase just rolls into the next, and we need to constantly be thinking about how we can, as you say, make space. I love that. The PMS, please make space. I'm going to use that one.
Yeah. Feel free to use it. You also triggered something in me as well. So we talk about what we said earlier on about women presenting in like, I'm calorie restricting, I'm flogging it out, I'm working my guts out, and I'm just not losing weight. And so part of that, and I know that this is what you do with your training programs with your clientele, Now, a big part of that is, and I'm going to try, it's out there, it's written in a lot of papers, it's written on all over, Google that knows everything, but hopefully we're going to say the message in a particular way that whoever is listening, it's going to land for those that need to hear it today. So what actually happens with cortisol, it's that fight flight approach and that freeze approach. It's the the cortisol is what we need to be on standby to be able to have the glycogen in the cells to go like rah. Okay, so if we are pushing it in the luteal phase and cortisol is high, the body externally, exercise is an external stress. Our workplace is an external stress. Being stressed in the head and being worrisome, these are all stresses on the body. And the body just compounds that. So when we've got different layers of stress, the body's going to want to respond to that fight or flight. And it says, love, darling heart, I know that you're not eating a lot, but we need to actually reserve this in the fat cells because I don't know when you're going to make me go into this fight, flight, or freeze zone. And so if we are going to focus on a part of our menstrual cycle to really apply the differences in a cycle-based fitness, I would say the luteal phase is the one to look out for.
100%.
Yeah. And that touches on what we were going to talk about tonight, which is the common mistakes and the pitfalls that clients make when they are exercising, right? So we've touched on that in a number of different ways, but I want to bring it back into the three main questions that we were going to talk about tonight and not go on for another hour like we did last week. But they are the common mistakes and pitfalls that we make, and especially in that luteal phase, Amy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember when I used to have my personal training studio. I no longer have that. I work solely online now. But I was working with women face to face for 9 years, and I would see them come and train with me and have an amazing, mind-blowing training session. But at the time, I wasn't aware of where they were at in their cycle. So they come back in the next week and the next week. And then suddenly we're like, oh, why can't you lift as heavy as you were the other week? And they would be getting frustrated and I would be getting confused, like, where's all your strength gone? And of course, as women, if we don't track a cycle and have no awareness, then we don't understand why the other day we were absolutely crushing our workouts. And now we feel like crap and we're getting really breathless and we're sweating buckets. Oh my God, like before my period comes, I am sweating so much in the gym, as you say, that elevated core temperature and just so much breathlessness because of the progesterone. Like if we just miss that tracking element of our cycle and expect ourselves to progressively lift heavier every week of a program, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm really keen on women using the progressive overload principle, which is essentially over time, making sure that you are lifting heavier and challenging yourself in order to build muscle. But whereas guys can think about progressive overload on a week-to-week basis, women need to think about progressive overload on a month-to-month basis. Like, what am I lifting this month compared to last month and the month before? So that's kind of frustrating for some women, I know, because you just want to constantly be making progress. But the more you get stuck in that cycle of always trying to challenge yourself and be better than you were last week, like the more frustrated you're going to be. And I see that as a big pitfall.
Yeah. I love it. And also to add to that is when we're training our women through their life cycles, because we've got we've got a 28-day cycle, but we've also got cycles within cycles. So there's the pregnancy cycle, there's the postpartum, there's the preconception, there's the perimenopausal, there's the menopausal. There is the cycles where there are, the period, a menstrual cycle is either irregular or no periods at all. Like, these are all the things that we take into consideration, right? And I don't remember where I was going with that train of thought.
Well, one thing that just reminds me of is the situation that I ended up in, and that was no cycle. So due to lack of awareness of what my hormones should have been doing as a woman in her 20s and into her 30s, I pushed myself too hard on my training. I did too many diets, partly because I was trying to test out all of the diets to see what was going to work for my clients. My body just shut down. Too high cortisol. And I know we've already been talking about stress already, but I feel like I spend most of my life talking to women about how to manage stress because it is so important. My body was way too stressed out. Too much of the same high intensity exercise week in, week out, that my body didn't feel safe enough to have a menstrual cycle, because of course that would mean I'd be bringing a baby into what could potentially be an unsafe world where there's not enough food available. So our bodies are really clever. They're never really working against us. They're doing what they're designed to do to protect us. So it's really about appreciating our bodies.
And this is where, sorry to cut you off, and this is where we're using, and the word that I use, manipulation, I'm using the word manipulation as a means in the proper way of manipulating a set of circumstances to get a desired result. Yeah. So when we can apply that to the women that we work with, wherever they are in their phase of their lifestyle, what we're doing is supporting the long game. We're supporting a longer game. So just like, we've got 12-week programs, we've got, programs, weekly programs. When our clients, and we can start getting the message out more and more to the women clientele, when you can trust cycle-based fitness and working with professionals that can layer food, they can layer the circadian rhythm, which is your sleep-wake cycle, your infradian rhythm, as well as, what we do is the fitness element of it as well, then the long game is what is here. And if we can start saying to our clientele more and more, what if you could have the results that you want without busting your gut and pretty much guaranteeing that you're not going to have burnout at your perimenopausal phase, at your menopausal phase, because of the type of activities that we were doing earlier on in our menstruating years, like selling the dream, right? Like speaking the dream.
We've got to think about our future self, haven't we?
Yeah. And we can say that as trainers, because, sorry again to cut you off, the amount, like when you owned your fitness studio and running classes, and myself, when I was at my peak fitness, I was doing 24 classes a week. That's a massive run sheet of driving from studio to studio and literally going from a HIIT class to a boxing class to a yoga class, then to a cycle class, and go, great, I've just trained for 4 hours. So then I'm just, feeding lots of protein and stuff like that, and then go home, smash out a bit of work or do a load of washing or put a meal on for the kids, and then I'm up for the night shift. And slowly over time, that started to wear out my nervous system. It started to wear out my body. Started to realize also I was demineralizing my body over time. So as you said, going on every diet to be able to see what works. You can help out your clients. I can say that we've stepped the shoes as amateur athletes training 24 hours a week, or 20 hours a week, or whatever the case is, that does have a cost on our health. And then we've got to spend the time trying to regain the health back. And so we come to our clients with that background and experience, right?
Yeah. And the earlier that we can start to support our body better, like the better journey we're going to have through the perimenopausal years, into menopause and postmenopause. And that was really a light bulb moment for me when I was in my mid-30s, and I realized, holy shit, I'm not having a cycle. And a menopause doctor said to me, Amy, you're going to have a horrific menopause if you don't start supporting your body better. And so I did. And I think even if you're in your 30s, you might be thinking menopause is so far away. Like, I do not need to think about that yet. It can come as early as 35, those perimenopausal symptoms. And the earlier you start supporting your body, the better transition you're going to have. And hell, if you're in the middle of that transition now and you're having a rotten time, you're never a lost cause. Like, there's always something that we can do to bring you back to vitality and energy and help you to get the body you want. And I also think it's really important to mention that we've spoken just about fitness today, right? And nutrition plays a huge role in what our bodies look like and feel like. And I'm in a few like fitness-based Facebook groups, and I'll often see these posts with girls saying something like, I started going to the gym, I've been going 5 days a week, and I haven't lost any weight yet, or oh, my body still looks the same. And it's like, you can't just exercise and expect everything to fall into place. That's one element of having a healthy body and feeling strong and fit and energetic and getting the weight off. Like, we have to also pay attention to what we're putting into our bodies. If you just exercise a ton, you might be overeating or you might be undereating. Like, we have to pay attention to all of it as a really like multi-pronged strategy.
Agreed. And we won't even talk about nutritional timing. I mean, these are all exercise prescriptions that we've been trained that anyone that we're working with, whether they're an athlete, an amateur athlete or not, these are all the principles that we lay in and layer when we're actually working holistically with our client, right? Nutritional timing, it's what are the best types of food to eat and when, is also very, very important for maintaining our overall health, our hormonal health, our mental health as well. So, yeah.
To support all of this exercise as well. Like, we're talking about what to do at each phase in your cycle, but if you're not able to recover from any of this training because you're not fueling appropriately, then your tank's just going to be empty.
Yeah.
I see a lot of women who just think about their training in terms of how many calories burned, and they'll start doing fasted training in the morning and then see how long they can go after their training session until they eat again to quote unquote like maximize the fat burn. But it ends up then hampering their recovery, hampering their muscle gains, hampering their fat loss ability. And so like, we need to consider all of it. We can't just go and just live on rabbit food and expect to have the energy and the body of our dreams.
Yep, agreed. Amy, it's always a pleasure. I reckon we're going to do another one of these, but maybe not next week. We'll give it a bit of a, maybe the week after. But if women wanted to be in the safety and guidance of your hands, you said that you work online now, which means that you've got more of a reach with clients. So tell us how we can get in touch, and we'll also put something down on the Facebook group.
Yeah, so the way that I work with women online is with my Female Formula program, which is a 16-week program. But as we spoke about before, this is all about the long game. So 16 weeks really is only a snapshot in time, but it's a perfect place to start and is going to be a springboard for the rest of your life. And I support women for sometimes years at a time, because we are on a journey. So the best way to get in touch with me would be to come and join my free Facebook group. So if you take a look at Cycle Syncing Success with Amy, this is my free community group. And in there, we cover all things cycle related, strength training, fat loss, nutrition, and is a really just safe and open space for discussing all of those female specific strategies.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I love the work that you're doing. I love the work that I'm doing. And
likewise.
What's that?
Likewise.
Yeah, I know. It's we're kindred spirits in across the waves. Amy resides in the UK, so I was super excited to go, yeah, there's more people doing this and wanting to connect. So I reached out to Amy, and we've had some great conversations ever since. And people know me on my page as also working with the general public, but also predominantly with women on the fertility journey. So the same fundamentals apply. We're just taking you through a cycle within a cycle.
Absolutely. Great conversation today, Helen.
Absolutely, my friend. Well, you have an awesome day, and I'm heading into my night. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining, and we'll be in touch for a next installment.
Absolutely. Speak soon.
Yeah, we will. Bye.